Hello dear students. So today's topic is the question what normally we face in our interview as well as in our Viva Voce. So in my last video of interview questions, we covered some of the questions related to Viva and as well as you can say in your interview questions. So today we are moving further and we are going to add some more questions which you will often see or face during your interview or in your Viva based on Java programming, covering the basic topics. So now we are moving further and adding few more questions. As you can see, there is a common question related to the data types. So basically, if examiner will raise a question like what are the different data types, so broadly they have been categorized into two categories, that is what you call primitive data types and the reference data type. Now primitive data types, again he may ask you like how many types of primitive data types are there. So your question will be basically 8, and if you just name them, they are byte, short, int, long, then you have float, double, char and boolean. So in all you have 8. 4 are belonging to the integer type, that is byte, short, int and long, and 2 floating type, that is float and double, and lastly you have char and boolean. Please remember that string is not a data type, it is a class. Okay, so as you can see there are 8 primitive data types. Now what are primitive data types? This can be one of the first question. So primitive data types are those data types which are available in a programming language, which is a part of that programming language, and they are basically the core data types. Okay, so if you look at the sizes in the computer's memory, means let's say if we have stored some variables of these primitive data types, so how much space they will occupy in a computer memory? This can be one of the common question. So I would say if you remember them in a particular order, like as I said, byte, short, int, long, float, double, char and boolean, it would be easy for you to remember their sizes. So if you see the byte data type, it occupies single byte in computer memory, short 2, then you have int, that is 4, and long, that is 8. So look at this, so you just keep doubling them, byte 1, short 2, int 4 and long 8. So it becomes quite easy to remember. Now coming to the floating type, you have float and double. So float occupy 4 bytes in computer memory, so double is double of float, that is 8. And then it comes to char and boolean. For char, surprisingly it occupy 2 bytes in computer memory. Those people who have already done C++ must be wondering, like in C++ char occupy only single byte, whereas here in Java it occupy 2 bytes. So why it is so? Because of Java support Unicode character set, whereas C++ support ASCII, American Standard Code for Information Interchange. So because of supporting Unicode, it support multiple type of character, like C++ only support few characters, that is 256 character in all, whereas Java support Unicode character set, that is basically including 256 character of ACII as well as many more character belonging to the different foreign languages also. So in all it is 65,536 character. So for this additional characters, one extra space has been allotted to char data type. So a char data type in Java occupies 2 bytes, whereas in C++ it occupies only 1 byte. So this is one of the points to be noted. And now coming to Boolean data type. So for Boolean data type, some people say it occupies 1 byte, some says 1 bit, but the question is actually it occupies single bit out of 8 bits, that is 1 byte. So your answer would be Boolean data type. For Boolean data type, 8 bits, that is 1 byte is reserved, but it occupies only single bit. Single bit can be 0 or it can be 1, because like I discussed with you in my last video also, Boolean data type, although we write the value for Boolean variable either true or false, but as I told you, it is not a string. Actually, when you are writing true, 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 or false, false, it is not true and false. Basically in computer memory it is in the form of 0 or 1. 0 stands for false, whereas 1 stands for true. So actually Boolean data type in computer memory it is stored in the form of either 0 or 1, and this 0 and 1 is simply occupy a single bit, as you know. But 1 byte reserved for Boolean data type, because we cannot go further down to bits, because we always talk about memory in the form of bytes only. So finally your answer will be 1 byte reserved, but it occupies only single bit. In that single bit it can be 0 or 1 depending upon whether it is false or true. Now coming to the different other type of data type, that is reference data type. The first one was primitive, other one was reference. Now this reference data type is also called as derived data type, because it is not the direct one, it normally derives from primitive ones only. So if we talk about reference data type, then your answer will be, basically there are 3 different reference data type, that is classes, arrays and interfaces. Now we have been discussing in detail about the classes already. Class is a user defined data type, it's a composite data type. So this is one of the reference data type. Okay, now as we already know, class is a reference data type because it is being derived from the different primitive data types, because a class can accommodate different data types which can be primitive ones. Now the other two is called arrays and interface. In arrays we will again discuss in detail further on, but array is a kind of variable which can store multiple values of similar data type, that we already know. So this array is another reference data type. Now the third one is interface. Now interface is something like a class only, but with some special features. So this can be one of the question, what is an interface? So your answer should be, interface is like a class but with some unique features. Those unique features can be, basically if it is like a class, definitely it should have variables and methods in it, which are called the member of that particular class or the member of that interface. But the important thing is the variable which you are using in an interface are always final in nature. That means their value are always fixed. The value cannot be changed within the program itself. This is the point you need to remember. The second thing is the method. So methods are always abstract in nature in case of an interface. So interface is like a class, has got variable and methods, but variables are always final in nature, whereas methods are always abstract. That means abstract method are those methods which are without body. Means abstract method has no body, so it won't do anything at all in that interface where it has been declared. So what we can say, in an interface we only declare those methods because they are always abstract in nature. So now the question is, if the methods are abstract in nature, then what they are going to do and how they are going to do. The question is, these abstract methods will be defined in that particular class where they will be implemented. So this we will discuss in interface chapter basically. But so far you can remember that there are three different data types. These three different data types are basically classes, arrays and interfaces. That we will discuss in detail further on when we will talk about those chapters of interface, inheritance, etc. Now there is another common question related to the basic Java programming is, what is an exception? You must have heard this term exception quite a lot, but now the answer would be, exceptions are basically the runtime errors, the error which we often encounter during runtime. Now what do we mean by runtime error is, basically if you see, when you type a program and then you compile that program, after compilation you see it give you many errors or few errors, whatever, and all will be listed in one go. You might see there are 5 errors, 10 errors, etc. So what are these errors? Actually these errors are called syntactical errors or syntax error. That means there is something wrong with your syntax when you have typed the program. Might be semicolon missing, curly bracket not properly closed, or sometimes you have misspelled a word or a keyword that you need to correct. Once you have corrected, now your program is syntactically correct, and if you compile your program, it will be compiled successfully. Fine. Once your program has been compiled successfully, then a bytecode will be generated. That is also called intermediate code, that you already aware of, and this is the bytecode which is portable, but there is no guarantee that if your program which has been compiled successfully is always going to run to execute, because there might be few errors which you will encounter during execution of the program, during running of that program, and these errors are called runtime errors. Means although program is syntactically correct, but there are few errors which are called runtime errors or logical errors, and these runtime or logical errors are the one which we call exceptions. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's say one of the common error is, normally sometimes we can say divide by 0. Let's say you are dividing a particular integer number integer value with 0. 0 is also an integer. But if you are dividing any particular number with 0, you must be knowing that answer will be infinite, and computer cannot represent the infinite value. So this is one of the logical error where you are dividing any particular number with 0. So result will be infinite. That is something we call a logical error, because the result will always infinite, which cannot be represented. Although it is syntactically correct. Another type of error can be array index out of bound. You know that array can store multiple values of similar data type, but if you are trying to access in your program a particular array element which is not present, or you are going beyond the boundary. Let's say your array size is of 10 and you are trying to access an element with the index number 11, 12 or 14 in your program. So syntactically it is okay, but when it will execute, it will raise a logical error or runtime error, that is array index out of bound. Means you are trying to access an element which is not existing and you are crossing the boundary. So these all the types of errors are technically called exceptions in Java. That means some unwanted situation has arisen during the execution of a program. So this is called an exception. We will discuss in detail about exception handling and all in our chapter exception handling and how we can handle these exceptions. So basically exceptions are runtime or logical errors which we will encounter during the execution of a program. Now you must be knowing what are exceptions. So this is one of the common question often examiner will ask you. So I think now you should be able to answer this question in a correct form. And with this I'm concluding this video, and I hope that you must have got some questions related to your Viva or your interview. And in my next few videos I'll be adding more and more questions. So if you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe my YouTube channel, and I will keep updating questions related to the Java programming